Welcome, friends, to another weekly video. Except this isn't a video, this is a live stream. This is Zach from Wolves in Finance, and we are here today to talk about how to survive the coronavirus recession. This is actually my second live stream on this channel. I really like doing live streams. I think it's a great format. And given the topic, given the craziness that is going on in the world in the last week alone, I thought it would be good to do this format rather than my regular weekly video, just to allow people a chance to interact and talk. And the thing is, things are happening so fast. The world is changing so fast. If you don't do it live, like everything's changed by the time you broadcast. So we are doing this live. That's what I want to do this week. So if you're watching this from your computer, you're watching this from your phone, I am interacting with you live. So if you have a question or a comment, you can just type it into the chat screen and I will see it and read it live. And hopefully we can interact and have a conversation and just talk about what has been going on. And I want to show you guys, let me throw up my computer screen. I'm sitting in front of my computer here so that I can broadcast this. Let me show you my computer screen because I have a little bit of an agenda of stuff I wanted to go through today. I thought we could talk about, kind of hit 5 different main areas. I'm going to start with a status update and just going through what's been going on over the last week. I want to talk a little bit about the accountant's role and what accountants can do in this situation. I want to talk specifically about what's going on with the stock market and what's happening with the economy. I'm going to talk about business strategy and what are some practical things you can do in your business in this situation. And finally, I want to talk about the government incentives and all the benefits that are actually available to you right now from the government. Claude from Chicago is in chat. Good to see you, man. He's asking, do I sell all my stocks? Let me start off. Let me start off by doing a few disclaimers. Let me get back to my full face here. Couple of disclaimers. So if you guys watch my channel for a while, you know something I don't do is I don't give investing advice on this channel. I don't give stock tips. I don't say specifically companies to buy or sell. There's lots of other places on the internet where you can find that information. I don't give investing advice. Investing is risky, so I just recommend in your investing to contact a finance professional and work through those issues. In this video, I'm going to focus generally on what's going on with the economy, and you can take this information and make your own investment decisions. I'll leave that up to you. I'm not an economist. I'm not a medical professional. I am a working accountant. So I'm a certified public accountant in the United States, and I'm going to be focusing mostly on the US economy in this video. So, this is affecting the whole world, and different countries have specific situations, but I'm going to be focusing mostly on the US economy. So let's start with a status update. What has been happening this week? On Friday, the President of the United States declared a national emergency over the coronavirus. Most states in the United States have cases of the coronavirus. I was checking last night, and I believe there's only 3 states that don't have a reported case. The 3 states are Idaho, West Virginia, and Alabama, I believe. But everybody else has cases. Some states have a lot of cases. I actually live in New Mexico, and actually in southern New Mexico, there's absolutely no cases where where I live. But the state of New Mexico, I think we have maybe like 6 cases, something like that, in other parts of the state. Um, the big story financially this week was the stock market took a nosedive. On Thursday, and we're going to get into the details of this in a little bit. On Thursday, there was a dramatic price drop. Some of the prices increased a little bit by the end of the day on Friday. But Thursday's drop was the second largest percentage drop in history since the crash that happened in the 80s. So that's pretty significant. That's a pretty big deal. And that's worth talking about. On a practical level, in the day-to-day life of people, I'm sure that some of you watching have experienced this. There's been a little bit of panic. There's been a little bit of chaos in society. I know I've witnessed stores on the shelves being sold out. It's very difficult to get things like toilet paper and food items like pasta, canned goods. A lot of things, people are flooding the stores and selling out of kind of emergency type items. So this is having a pretty big effect. The other thing that's happening is there's been travel restrictions. There's the travel ban to Europe. There is people are being encouraged to stay home. States have been banning public gatherings. Sporting events have been canceled. Yeah, this is a brand new world, something that none of us have experienced before. And it's all happened in the span of a week. This is like overnight, business people are waking up and the economic reality has shifted under our feet. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. What do we do now? If you're an accountant or you're a business person and you're running a business, what do you do now? So, let me know in chat, people who are watching this, have you kind of experienced any of these things where you live? Where do you guys all live? Do you live in the United States? Are people panicking in your area? Are people selling out the toilet paper in the stores in your area? What's going on? Let me know in chat. If you guys have experienced kind of the panic that's going on. Let me start out by chatting a little bit about accountant's role in all of this. If you're an accountant or you're a finance professional or if you're a businessman or a woman or you own a business, what is your role in a national emergency like this? And something that I believe, this is how I kind of approach these situations, is that business people are supposed to be the calm voice in the room. This is just my perspective on business, so you guys might have a different idea. But, I always think that, when chaos hits, when panic hits, people are going to turn and look to the business person for that calm, rational, thoughtful response. Because your job is to watch the money. So you're hoping that the money guy or girl is going to be calm and rational and be able to figure a way through the crisis or the chaos that is going on. And that's really something I would encourage, business leaders out there. That's something that you can bring to this situation. The market's going crazy. The economy is upside down. You can be the guy in the room who comes up with a rational, thoughtful, calm response to the question, what do we do now? That can be your role as a business leader. I mean, there's a lot of crazy questions that need to be answered right now. We got some more people in chat. Good to see all you guys. Good to see you, Waleed, Martin, Mubarak, Juan. Good to see all you guys. Waleed says, I live in Pakistan and people are making jokes of coronavirus here. Oof. Martin says, hi, Zach. I live in UK, work in the tech industry. Company-wide, we are starting remote working on Monday. In general, it is part of a panic and part it is just a flu mentality. Okay, all right. So people are saying different things. Mubarak says, hello, from Brazil. All right. Juan says, it depends on the kind of business. If I'm selling toilet paper, I would be rich. Yeah, that's a good point, Juan. Yeah, to Martin's comment, yeah, a lot of people are remote working. I'm seeing that a lot. I'm seeing that a lot in the United States. A lot of companies are encouraging their workers to think about remote working or working from home to try to contain spread of the virus. Yeah, I think that's good. I actually think a lot of good things are going to come out of this, because if you think about it, this might encourage a debate around remote working and how we can use technology that's available today to think about how we do, how we plan our days. So, when I think about it, I think before now, why haven't we been doing more remote working? Like, why are we only doing remote working now? Because from a business perspective, remote working can save your business a ton of money. I mean, just think about it. You don't need to pay rent on as much office spaces. You don't need to pay money for all those utility expenses. So why haven't we been doing more remote working? We have the technology to do all of this. Another thing is the travel. There's all these travel bans going on, but why are we spending all this money on travel in the first place? Why don't we do, telecommuting or conference calls or live streaming what we're doing now? So, there's a lot of disruption going on with people changing how things are being done in their businesses, but there could be some good to come out of this. I mean, this could result in the way businesses run, and there might be more, like, going forward, this might change the way things are done, to do more teleworking going forward. Because I think a lot of roles in a company, teleworking makes a lot of sense, and it's more beneficial for the workers, and it's cheaper for the company. Paulo from Brazil says, my clients here are working normally. All right. Martin says, I agree with you there, Zach. Oh, nice. Okay. Paulo says, your orientation has a lot of wisdom. Perfect. All right. Let's change gears a little bit. So we talked a little bit about what an accountant can do, which is be that calm, thoughtful, rational voice in the room and figuring out how to make it through this economic mess. That is something you can do. Let's switch it up a little bit and talk specifically about the stock market. What's going on with the stock market? Because I know a lot of people are probably here asking about that question. Actually, Claude was the first question in chat today asking, do I sell all my stocks? Now, I'm not going to be answering that question, but I hope I can give you a little bit of, I'll share you my opinion on what's happening with the stock market. How's that? And I'm going to throw up my computer screen here because we're going to talk through some charts. So here's my computer screen. Let me get up. I'm just pulling up, this is Yahoo Finance. Anybody can go to this. It's their free website on Yahoo. I like them because I think they have the best stock charts. But if you just go to the Dow 30, and this is kind of showing the Dow is a basket of stocks that are very large companies in the United States. So it's good to look at this to see kind of what's happening with the stock market. If you go to this chart, let's pull up the full chart here. if you go to this chart and you go to what's happened over the last 5 days, this is what people are talking about. All right, so we have all right, let's go back. You can see it. You can see it easier on this small chart here. Let's look at 5 days. All right, so we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday here. This is the giant drop that happened on Thursday. And this is the reason people are all freaking out. Now, if you look here, Friday, it did regain, the Dow did regain a lot at the very end of the day on Friday. But this drop here freaked everybody out. So the president gave his address, I believe, Wednesday night, and then he gave another address on Friday where he issued the national emergency. But yeah, this was the dramatic drop I was talking about earlier. That was the second largest percentage drop in the history of the stock market. So that's pretty significant. But let's go back to the other chart because I want to talk about this from, I've studied a lot about stock market history. And so I like to look at things from a big picture perspective of what's going on here. So if we take this chart here, this is the overall stock chart, and we do a custom date range, let's go all the way back to 2007. So this is the stock market in 2007. Oh gosh, my head is covering part of this chart. Hold on. Let's go back to 2005. Yeah, okay, you can see it better now. All right, so this right here was the Great Recession in 2008. So 2008 starts right here. This is the start of 2008. And this was the Great Recession of 2008 that lasted pretty much this whole year down to 2009. And then the stock market had started recovering again. And so if any of you guys remember the recession from 2008, I know I did. It was horrible. It was pretty bad. But from a long-term perspective, since 2009, the stock market has been in an incredible bull market, incredible bull market going up and up and up from 2009. So here we're up, we're going up, we're going up, we're going up, we're going up. So what is this? This is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. We have had 11 years of a fantastic stock market in the United States. So that's an important thing to remember when you look about what's going on last week. So you have this incredible stock market. Then you get here, and this is the coronavirus. Since the beginning of 2020, the stock market has not done that great. Since the beginning of 2020. And this large drop is largely driven by the coronavirus. But also, this could be in part a little bit of a correction to this incredible growth we've seen in the stock market over the last 11 years. So there could be, the coronavirus is obviously a big part of this, but there could also be this longer term trends going on where there's a little bit of a correction that's happening. And if we compare, I just think it's helpful to compare the current stock market movements to what happened in 2008 and understand how they're similar, but more importantly, how they're different. Got some new people in chat, Moshal and Siddhant. Good to see both of you. Thanks for joining. Moshal says he's from Saudi Arabia. I'm going to take my FAR exam last week, but it was canceled for the third time due to coronavirus. Oh my goodness. I didn't even think about that. All the people who are working on their accounting exams. That must be frustrating, man. Because I know how hard it is to study for those. Sid Hunt says, Zach, what do you think will be the impact of the coronavirus on the world economy? Okay, good question. So, we've been talking about the stock market. I think it's important to keep these in a long-term perspective about what's going on. I do think there's a really important distinction to make here. So when you compare the drop in the stock market from last week to, say, what happened in the 2008 recession, what happened in the 2008 recession was there was some fundamental things that were wrong with the economy. If you remember the 2008 recession, it was about there was bad home mortgages, there was people taking out loans they couldn't afford, there was mortgage-backed securities that were wrongly rated incorrectly. We needed to have new regulations put in place, new business practices for banks. Banks had to merge. People had to foreclose on their homes. They had to redo their finances. People had to go through bankruptcies. There were fundamental issues with the economy that took years for people to correct. I mean, the new regulations that got put into place and then implemented, like that all takes a really long time. The difference between 2008 and what is happening today is today, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the economy. So what is causing the stock market drop today is completely this external factor dealing with the coronavirus and government restrictions placed on how we're interacting in society. But there really isn't anything wrong with the economy. The economy is generally working. It's generally going well. It's not like there's like bad loans out there or stuff like there was in 2008. So that tells me that this external factor of the coronavirus, if we were to somehow resolve the coronavirus, let's say in an extreme example, we all isolated ourselves in our rooms for 30 days and the coronavirus completely got wiped out. If you completely remove that external factor, theoretically, the stock market could quickly recover. Because what's weighing it down is the coronavirus. You remove the coronavirus, there's nothing else wrong with the economy. We go back to normal. And so now that's not likely going to happen. I mean, we're not going to likely eradicate this coronavirus in 30 days. This is going to be a longer term thing. But it is important to realize that fundamentally there's nothing wrong with the economy. It's just this external force that's happening that we're trying to grapple with. So that begs the question, if that is really our perspective, and that's my perspective, that also means that we have a lot of control in this situation to avoid what could be a slowdown in the world economy. So what I think is if we come up with ways to change the way we do business to fit this new social construct, these new economic restrictions, our economy is healthy enough right now, it's robust enough that we could avoid this recession slowdown that everybody's talking about. Most of us have to now start working from home. We have to figure out new ways of doing business. Certain areas of the economy are going to do really bad. Some areas of the economy are going to do really good. But how flexible can we be in turning this economy around? The U.S. economy is the most resilient economy in the world. And this really is a test on how resilient we can be. Can we really switch on a dime and change the way we do business to fit this new world that we live in? The world has changed in a week. Can we make changes to adjust? The economy doesn't look very good right now. The stock market doesn't look really good. But that doesn't mean that we can't turn things around still. All right, got a couple more chats. Stephanie joined chat. Good to see you. Bobby joined chat. Good to see you. Stephanie says, hello, happy to catch you live. Well, thanks for joining, Stephanie. Stephanie says, do you think it's a good time to start investing in the stock market as a beginner? I put a disclaimer at the beginning of this stream where, I don't give investing advice on this channel. I try to talk about overall fundamental concepts and talk about what's going on in the economy today. But I think here's what I always encourage people to do. I encourage people to start investing in the stock market when they're young. Whether the market's up or whether it's down, I think you should take like a little bit of money and just start investing, because you have to be in the game to figure the stock market out. I started investing when I was really young, and just small amounts of money. I mean, nothing big, but just enough so that you kind of learn what to look for and how the market moves and how to research stocks and how, where you get your information from. I always encourage people to start investing in the stock market, just as a learning experience. Now, whether you invest large amounts of money in the stock market or not is an entirely different question. And I'm not going to be answering that in today's live stream, unfortunately. Bobby says, the coronavirus was made to justify the economic crash and the beginning of a cashless system. Okay, so that's one perspective. Gabe says, rule of 72, stocks are better for long term when you're younger. All right, that's a good point, Gabe. Stephanie says, I'm 28. All right, well, that's a perfect time to start to learn as much as you can about the financial system. That is why I do this channel. I want people to learn as much as they can about finances and accounting, and yeah. So good for you, Stephanie, for being proactive about that. Juan says, you should invest in bonds as well. Spread your investments. Yeah, Juan's point is diversification is always a good thing. Diversification is I've made some videos about it, but diversification is something you should always use in your investment strategies. It's very powerful when it comes to investing your money. All right, what are we moving on to next? I have my agenda here of things I want to cover. Let's talk about business strategy. So if you are running a business, here, I'm going to go back to my, I'm going to close out this screen. Oh, sorry, that's my other channel. I have another YouTube channel where I stream games every day. And it's on this setup. So if you want to see me live stream every day and chat with me, you can check out my other YouTube channel. That's a little less serious than this one. This is kind of my serious YouTube channel. Martin says, on the macroeconomics, should the government avoid any restrictions and bans and downplay the situation to keep the economy going, or will this hurt them when the coronavirus picks up faster? You know what? I am not the expert on government policy. And so I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not going to make any recommendations for policies the government should or should not put into place. What I will focus on is what is it that businesses can do, because that's the space that I live in. I'm a working accountant. I work in businesses. And so that's the advice that I can give. The government's going to do what the government does. But what can you as a business leader do in this crisis? And that's what I want to talk about a little bit is business strategy. So everybody's going crazy right now. Everybody is just losing their minds. They're running around. They're selling out the stores. What is the best strategy for you as a business leader? So I have some thoughts on this. I really have two main thoughts here. The first thought, and this is something I feel strongly about, but again, this is my opinion. How do I say this? Don't price gouge. I'm just going to say it. Now is not the time to price gouge. And, when people lose their minds, when people go crazy and are panicked, it is really easy to scam people and price gouge and make a quick buck. And I would just encourage all business leaders out there to not do that. What you do in the next 30 days is going to define your character, but also your reputation. If you use this emergency as a way to make a quick buck and to price gouge people, people will remember that for the rest of your life. Like, that will become your company's brand, is that you are a price gouger. And so, if you have a whole bunch of supply of face masks, don't go start selling them for $100 a face mask. People will remember that. And the reverse is also true. If instead of selling them, you donate them to a nursing home in your area that really needs them and is running out of supplies, people will also remember that. We are in an emergency, and people will remember the actions that you take over the next 30 days. It's one of those moments. And so that's just my opinion, but my advice to you is don't price gouge because people will remember. Let's see. Gabe in chat says, what do you think about supply chain disruption? Can the globalization of supply chains and markets really handle this hit and for who knows how long? I like the idea of Tesla saying their vehicles will be produced in America. I feel like they will have to be the move for many companies who rely on China's production. Okay, all right, that's a good point. So, I think this is a wake-up call. I think we are very highly reliant, especially in the United States, on supply chains overseas. And I think because of this instance, I think our supply chain is vulnerable in a lot of different areas. I think you made a good point. I personally have seen instances in businesses last week where they had difficulty getting supplies, or where supplies are on back order, or where we can't get what we need. So great point. I think businesses looking forward will think strategically about their supply chains, making them a little bit more robust and a little bit more diversified. But it's one of those areas where I think we're going to have to question a whole bunch of things about how we do business, and hopefully we come out on the other side as a bigger and better and stronger economy. Martin says, what about the other side of the question? There will be great excess demand if you do not adjust the price. Good question. And you know what? I knew somebody was going to make this comment, Martin, because, my perspective is controversial in a lot of economic circles, because a lot of economists who are true market believers say that supply and demand should always predict the price. Supply and demand, if there's a lot of supply out there, you should ratchet up the price. You should price gouge, because otherwise you're going to skew what's going on in the economy. Well, here's my response to that. You are a leader in your community. If you just think of yourself as just exclusively a money exchanger, exchanging hands, you are missing half of your job. Yes, you are there to be a driver of economic activity in your community. You are there to build a strong, thriving business, and you are there to make money. But you are also there to be a leader in your community. And so you have to think about the big picture. And price gouging is one of those things that your leader hat should switch on and say, this isn't right. So yeah, there could be a difference in supply and demand, but I think it's your responsibility as a leader to not participate in price gouging. That's my personal opinion. I know that could be controversial for some economists, but That's been my experience. uh, Barack is in chat. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. He said, just tuned in. Not sure if this is discussed. What do you think of the potential collapse of U.S. corporate debt? Interesting question. There are a lot of different perspectives on this. I'm not going to get into. I want to stay focused on some specific strategic business things in this stream, so I'm not going to get into it in detail. But I am a strong believer in the strength of the U.S. dollar. I think there's a lot. I have heard these people talk about U.S. corporate debt, and there being some potential concerns there. But here's the thing with currency markets. I'll just get into this very briefly. Currency markets are, it's like a zero-sum game. It's not like, currency markets are not like the stock market. The stock market can go up and up forever. But currency markets, it's like you're choosing between different currencies around the world. And if you compare the US dollar with other currencies around the world, the US dollar is still incredibly strong. So let's say the US dollar collapses. Well, you have to replace it with something. What other country are you going to replace it with? You're not. So, just in general, I've heard those theories too. But just in general, I'm a big supporter of the strength of the US dollar. I think that it will be able to withstand the shocks, the economic shocks that it's going through right now. And that's all. That's not. We're going to go into that because we could talk about that we could do a whole live stream just on that. Waleed says, should I invest in commodities, specifically oil right now? So, again, I mentioned this earlier. I'm not going to give any specific investment advice, but that, oil is one of the concerns right now is what's going to happen with oil prices, because oil prices affect a whole lot of different areas of the economy. Because transportation has taken such a hit, because of the travel bans, that's going to cause a big loss in purchases for oil. So that is going to hit the oil industry hard. That is a big major concern. The U.S. does have a lot of excess supply of oil. So there is some give and take on how this is going to play out. The U.S. does have some measures that they can use to make the impact not as bad. But I'm not going to give you any specific should you buy or sell oil at the moment. But that is a major concern, and I'm sure that the chief economists in Washington are keeping a very close eye on what's happening with the oil markets. Juan says, what about crypto? Oh man, what about crypto? Well, I am not a fan of cryptocurrencies, and I'll just briefly explain why. Is because I think when you're investing in currencies or stocks or anything like that, there are so many other investment alternatives. Why would you even invest in something as risky as cryptocurrencies? But I'm not going to get into crypto in this live stream, but I have made a couple of different videos on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So if you want to know more about my specific reasons and thoughts on cryptocurrency, you can check out those videos. Okay, business strategy. So, we talked about price gouging. I want to talk a little bit more about specific business strategies you can do. So, as a business person, I talked about one of the concerns, a role that I think accountants play and finance professionals play and business leaders play is that you can be the calm, rational, thoughtful voice in the room when everything is turned into chaos. And how does that play into business strategy? Well, this is the time for you to sit and think, how can I make my business react to the changes in the economy? And this is something that if you're a business leader, is that the economy is always changing. It's always changing. Now, this last week has been a very dramatic example of this. But in general, the economy is always changing. It's going up, it's going down. Different technologies come out, disruptive technologies. People change their purchasing behaviors, all sorts of things. So you as a business leader, what you're really doing is you're constantly being flexible and changing based on the changing economy. Well, now is no different. What's happening now is no different, and your job is to be the calm, rational, thoughtful voice in the room and think, how do I change my business to reflect the changing economy? And if you do this, you're going to be able to make it through. Because in my experience, this is something that's very difficult for businesses to do, to change and be flexible. And so if you can change faster than all of your competitors, you're going to have a huge competitive advantage. I mean, if you can change quickly to the rapid changing economic realities that we live in today, your competitors are just going to be sitting on the sidelines holding their head in their hands. And this really is what happens. Let me give you an example. One type of business that I think is probably going to be hit pretty hard in this new economic reality is restaurants, right? I mean, let's say you own a restaurant, people are not going to want to eat out because they're self-isolating, they're just staying in their homes, they're not going out. And so if you're a restaurant owner, you have this big staff of people, suddenly your sales drop off the charts. What do? What's your business strategy? Well, maybe you can sit down, get your team together, and change your business model. What is something that you could do as a restaurant owner to bring in a new revenue stream? Well, something you could do, you could start out and do a delivery service. So the deal is people still need to eat. People still don't want to cook their own food, but they just don't want to do the behaviors of coming out to a public place. So why don't you figure out how to bring the food to them? And there are so many technology apps out there right now today to help you do this. You could set up this whole thing in like 7 days and suddenly have a brand new revenue stream coming in. Your wait staff, you could change them into delivery drivers, and suddenly you have a new business model when a lot of your competitors are just going to be sitting on the sidelines. Now, this is just one example, but you could do this for any type of business that you're in, because what it is, it's about thinking outside the box and solving the problem of the economic situation that you're in. All right, let's look at some more chats. Let's see. Maroon joined chat. Good to see you, man. He says, hi, is it a good time to start investing in stocks? Man, everybody's coming at me with this question. Yeah, so I'm not giving specific investing advice, but I am talking about business strategy and how to best tackle being a business leader in this current environment. I remember what it was like in 2008. So in 2008, I was a lot younger back then. I was just starting out in my career, and I was working for this hotel company, and we owned a number of hotels, including one of the biggest hotel properties in Los Angeles. And so this was a great job to have, just perspective-wise, and to see the impact of the recession hit in 2008, because I saw everything. I was at ground zero when that recession hit. So I'm working for this hotel. This is an entry-level position. I'm nobody important, but it was crazy. It was like overnight, corporate travel just stopped. It just stopped. And we're all sitting there thinking, what do we do? I mean, we had hundreds of employees. How do we keep our doors open? And so here's what happened. We had to figure out how to change our business model, How do we take this giant ship, this giant company, and change course? And so we pulled all the department heads together in one room. And we sat around the table, you got all the managers there, and we figured out, okay, this is the new economic reality we're in. What are we going to do? How do we make it through this? What are the changes we have to put into place in our business? And we came up with a new strategy of how to run this hotel property during a recession. And not only a strategy, we came up, every manager of every department had specific tasks that they had to put into place. You know, and just simple examples. Like one example was, I remember we used to have like a whole bunch of, you know, when you go to a hotel and you have all those different little bottles in the room. Well, we were kind of a fancy hotel, and so we had a ton of different like little bottles we put in the room. Well, we started doing things like, well, we wouldn't. We only had like the basic bottles in the room instead of all of them, and then like some of the fancier stuff we'd only have available upon request. And just like little cost savings measures like that end up going a long ways when you have a massive, massive property. And so each manager had these these task lists of all these tasks they were going to implement and put into place. So my job during all of this, I was the keeper of the strategy spreadsheet. And so we actually created this spreadsheet of all of the tasks and of all the tasks and the strategic directions, everyone's action items, when they were expected to complete them. And I kept this strategy spreadsheet. And let me tell you, I tracked those action items like my life depended on it, because the life of the business did. If we didn't accomplish these action items quickly, that business was going to shut its doors. And I got a report, you know, we ended up making it not only through the recession, we ended up being in our competitive area, in our competitive set of competing hotels, we were the #1 percentage increase in revenue per available room out of all of our competitors. Because while they were sitting on the sidelines, we were doing something about it. And so that's kind of a model that you can use in your business, is to sit down, bring everybody together, come up with your strategy of how can I adapt and adjust? What are the actions people have to do? And how am I going to hold them accountable to make sure that that happens? Juan says, LOL, how old were you in 2008? Oh gosh, I'd have to calculate that out. I was born in 1980. So in 2000, I was 20, so I would have been 28. Jeffrey Duck is in chat. Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. Martin says, how will the strategy changes affect differently on hardware versus software companies? I guess in hardware, you often have bigger fixed costs, which are harder to refocus. Yeah, good point, Martin. I mean, I think it sounds like you're kind of have some experience in that industry. It sounds like you're also on the right track of thinking through things. I mean, I gotta be honest, I'm not an expert in the hardware or software industry. But, if you think about, what areas in your business do you have flexibility? And it's really a matter of focus. What are the areas that you're going to be able to focus on? Chris just joined chat. Good to see you, Chris. He says, any advice for an accounting student trying to find a job in this new climate? Well, man, that's a tough question. I mean, if you're just entering the job market now, this is obviously a tough period. There's probably a lot of people who are going through hiring freezes. So, gosh, I haven't even really thought about that. Here's what I think is, I think that we're going to make it through this. I think that the U.S. economy is the most resilient economy in the world. And if we business people get together, we will find ways to keep our businesses going and keep our businesses growing. I mean, just think about it. We have all these people. They're sitting isolated in their homes. They're bored. They're going to want something to do. They're still going to want entertainment. They're still going to want interaction. They're still going to want to buy things. They're just going to do it differently. So, if you're a business and before you spent a lot of money on generating sales through traveling to conferences, which a lot of companies do, well, that's not an option for you anymore. Don't go to conferences anymore. Instead, take that sales marketing money out of your budget and put it into social media advertising, because all these people who are stuck at home are going to be on their computers and they're going to see your ads pop up, and you might even actually generate more sales. So, I think that I really think the US economy will figure a way through this. Now, if you're looking for a job, it's always tough to look for a job if the economy is a little bit rocky. But, just start pounding the pavement, man. I mean, just go out there and see where you can help and where you contribute. Jeffrey Duck says, my brain is too small for this. Jeffrey. Gabe says, is automation more on the table now more than ever? Businesses need to continue without the worry of spreading a virus among all the workers. I mean, so I've actually made a video on automation. I have a YouTube video on are computers taking accounting jobs? And, I'm a big fan of automation. I think automation is always good. I think we should always be looking for ways to automate, but I also don't think that automation is going to take everybody's job. I just think that technology has always been a supplement to the jobs that are there. Because what happens with entrepreneurs is entrepreneurs look around at all the resources that are available and they say, how can I use these resources to make me money? That's the entrepreneurship game, right? So entrepreneurs will look around and say, okay, I got this automation here, and I have all of these resources, these human staff members over here. Well, I'm gonna have the automation work on this stuff, and the human staff members work on this stuff. And so I don't think any of the jobs are going to go away. Entrepreneurs are just going to find other work for all these people to do. That's my personal opinion. Again, that's another thing that's controversial because a lot of people disagree with me on this. But the one thing I have on my side is history, because history has always followed this trend where new technology comes up and people find even more work that needs to be done. Okay, let's move on because there's lots of stuff to talk about. I want to talk about government incentives. So the government, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this. I've been paying very close attention to this. There is actually the Small Business Administration is offering some pretty good incentives. So the president mentioned this in his address, that one of the ways that they're going to try to cope with some of the difficulties to the economy is start to offer some of these business incentives. So the Small Business Administration is actually offering loans, business loans, up to $2 million to help businesses through this crisis. And I've been looking at some of these loans. These are some incredible opportunities. So these have great repayment terms, just incredibly low interest rates, incredibly low. So if you are in a business that is going to be hurt by this, there's opportunity to get help from the government on this. If it makes sense for your business to get a loan that you can repay back later as the economy starts to recover, if that makes sense to you, definitely reach out to your local government agency. Now, a lot of these loans are going to be run through your local state agencies, whether it's your economic development department or whether you have whatever agency you have in your state that deals with government incentives for businesses. They're probably going to be handling these. And they probably have additional incentives on top of these federal loans. So the Small Business Administration is federal. So that's incentives coming from the federal level, but there's also going to be state incentives. So, reach out to these government agencies. They're there to help you in these exact situations that we're in right now. Not only that, states are responsible for unemployment programs. And so states are going to be looking, states don't want you to lay off workers because then the states just have to pay for it on the unemployment programs. So if there's ways that they can connect you with incentives so that you don't have to lay anybody off, they're going to want to do that. They're going to want to keep you in business. So, work with your local agencies, work with the federal government programs. I've been looking at them. They are fantastic. They are fantastic. It's another one of those situations where, you should always be looking for the opportunities around you. As a business person, you're staying flexible and reacting to this economic environment, and you're always evaluating what are the opportunities and threats out there, and how does my business respond to those? So just a little bit of information on those government incentives that are happening right now, available to you if your business is suffering from this environment. All right, Gabe in chat is saying, I think automation in terms of restaurants, delivery, and manufacturing, I don't think automation is taking accounting or lawyer jobs away, at least for decades. Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, kind of what I said before. I mean, I think automation is good. I think it'll become more and more a part of our lives. But I think people will still need people. I mean, the big argument people use in automation is truck drivers. People will say there's self-driving trucks and we don't need truck drivers anymore, and there's going to be, millions of people who are out of work. But the point of a truck driver is doing the paperwork. When a package gets dropped off at a business, somebody has to actually receive the package. That's actually a legal event, is the transfer of goods at the point of delivery. And so if you take the driver out of the situation, who's going to do that handoff? Theoretically, you could have a driverless truck drive off, expect the business to do all of that themselves, but I just don't see that working. I think the truck driver, the actual person, plays a very important legal role. And so, I mean, I think you'll see all kinds of situations like that where automation is good, self-driving trucks are good, but will you necessarily eliminate people's jobs? I don't know. Chris says, plus security. If someone parks a car in front of an automated truck, they could easily rob the stuff inside. That's a good point, Chris. I never even thought about that. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, so that's it. I think I covered most of the stuff I wanted to cover. We gave an update on what's been happening with the coronavirus. We talked specifically about what's happening with the stock market. We talked about what you can do as an accountant or a finance professional or a business leader, and what's your role in helping resolve all the chaos that we're experiencing right now. We talked about some specific business strategies you could implement in your business today, including building a business strategy spreadsheet to track all your action items. We talked about government incentives that the Small Business Administration is offering right now today for your businesses. So I hope this was helpful. I mean, I just wanted to have kind of a conversation, get some feedback from you guys in chat, talk about all the craziness that's going on right now. Sometimes it's helpful just to talk to other people and realize there's other business professionals out there that are dealing with the exact same struggles that you are. And together, we are going to find a way through all of this chaos. So that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be back here again next week with a new video on accounting and corporate finance. So that's going to be it for me today. We've been going for about an hour here. Great discussion, great comments in chat. Thank you so much to everybody who showed up today and watched this live stream. This is Zach from Wolves in Finance. Let's go out and make some money.